again, a tip of the hat to WBAI. Just picked up our show, our newest affiliate, 99.7 in New York City. On the line with us is Thom Perez, the DNC chair, former U.S. Secretary of Labor. Democrats.org is the website. You can tweet him at Thom Perez. Secretary Perez, Thom, welcome back to the program.
Thom, it's always great to be with you and your listeners. Happy New Year, belatedly.
I appreciate your making yourself available to us, because it is, this is a very progressive show, and occasionally, we have conversations that I think really push things, and I appreciate that.
I love being on your show, Thom. I loved it when I was Labor Secretary, and I love it now, and I love your listeners.
Thank you, Thom. There is an ad running right now. Nate, I don't know if you can cue this up, and we could even play it for Mr. Perez, for Secretary Perez. There's an ad running right now. I saw this on Sunday on Meet the Press. And it's gotten more than 10 million views on social media. It is paid for by the Trump 2020 campaign. Literally, Donald Trump is campaigning as we speak on the wall. Here is a clip from that. Do we have that, Nate? Oh, we don't have it. I'm sorry.
I saw the ad.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. And then also, back when Trump was first running, and it looked like, I thought that he had a chance, I gave him $5, his campaign, in the name of Fred Flintstone. And I've been on his fundraising list ever since. And I got an email 10:30 this morning, Pacific time, about an hour ago. It says, Fred, I'll be addressing the nation tonight at 9 p.m. on the humanitarian and national crisis at our southern border. Just look at the facts. Drugs are poisoning our loved ones. MS-13 gang members are threatening our safety. Illegal criminals are flooding our nation. I want to make one thing clear to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. Your safety is not a political game or a negotiating tactic. And then we need to raise $500,000 in one day. I want to know who stood with me when it mattered the most. So I'm asking my team to let every American patriot, let me know the name of every American patriot who donates to the official Secure the Border Fund. Please make your contribution by 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our official Secure the Border Fund, and so I can have your name sent to me after my speech. And then it says contribute $250, $100, $50. The networks in 2014 refused to allow Barack Obama to address the nation about DACA. You were in the administration at the time. You were Secretary of Labor at that time, I believe.
Remember that well.
And they said that the reason why they wouldn't let him do it is because they thought that his talking about DACA was a political stunt and it was an election year. Donald Trump this week, in the last 7 days, rolled out a national advertising campaign for his reelection. Is fundraising. This is the third fundraiser on this issue I've gotten in the last 3 days in email. How the hell can these networks say that this isn't just purely political?
Well, it does feel political to me, and that's why we were joining the cacophony of people pointing that out to the networks. I'm heartened, I guess, Thom, that Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer will have equal time following the address tonight, because this is a political address. Make no mistake about it. There is no humanitarian crisis at the border. This is a manufactured crisis by this president. For partisan political gain. I'll ask the following question. Who said the following? And I quote, "There's no credible evidence of any terrorists coming across the border from Mexico." That is not a quote from Thom Perez. That is a quote from the State Department.
Right. This
United States State Department. That's the situation. We saw this in the run-up to the midterm elections, where every day on Fox News it was about the caravans. It was distracting Donald, wanting to distract attention away from health care and all the issues that people really care about. I thought Mexico was going to be paying for this wall. Right. And here we have the government shut down to basically pander to the base. And we really shouldn't have Rush Limbaugh being the de facto commander-in-chief, because that's what's happening right now. And that's why this is so cynical. And Thom, I spent a lot of time working as a career federal worker. People have to, they got bills to pay. I was reading quotes from federal workers. One who said, "I voted for one," and he's the one who's doing this. I thought he was supposed to do good things for me. It feels like I'm a hostage. Well, they are being held hostage. Yeah. And there's so much. Again, distracting Donald. He doesn't want to talk about health care, doesn't want to talk about anything else. And again, I must remind everyone the Senate and the House before the Christmas holiday passed a bill and sent it to the president. Didn't include funding for a border wall. The Republicans were on board with that.
You're
and
right.
Here we are.
It got over 80 votes in the Senate, as I recall. So it seems to me that Donald Trump himself politically is facing a serious crisis, and that is that TSA agents are starting to call in larger and larger numbers, calling in sick. And if they shut down the TSA pre-lines, then suddenly the influencers, the decision makers, the people, with power, the people who make political contributions, who go through those pre-check lines, those high priority, basically anybody who's got a first-class ticket on an airline, those people are going to start being majorly inconvenienced, because typically a pre-check line, as I'm sure you know, is like 1 or 2 minutes, whereas a normal line is 30 or 40. If that happens, he's screwed. I mean, it'll turn so fast, among other things. I mean, there's all these other things. So he wants to resolve this. This is my analysis. I'd love to get your take on it. He wants to resolve this right away, but he wants to save face. So he comes out, declares a state of emergency or some other clever device to say, hey, I've solved the problem. And immediately that gets thrown to the federal courts, because you guys, the Democrats, challenge him, sue him. Immediately, just like with the Muslim ban. The Muslim ban, went through the federal courts 3 different times. Each time Trump won. I mean, he lost in court, but he won in the court of public opinion over on Fox News and among his base, because he was seen as, I'm fighting to stop those brown people from the Middle East from coming into our country. And now he's saying, I'm fighting to stop those brown people from south of the border from coming into our country. So, A, he can reopen the government and say that, mission accomplished. And just, tell Mitch McConnell, go ahead, pass the bill that Nancy Pelosi just got through the House. We'll sign it. B, he gets repeat events if this thing goes back to court over and over again. And C, most importantly, he gets to play the favorite role of conservatives in America ever since the Reagan era, which is that of victim. He gets to be the snowflake. Oh, my God, they're stopping me in the courts. Please send me another $50. This guy's already raised $100 million for his election campaign. It's absolutely unprecedented. He's got all these people just cranking money out at him. What do you think? A, do you think that analysis is accurate? And B, if so, what are you going to do about it?
No, I mean, I think you're spot on. And again, in declaring a national security emergency, that simply belies the facts. And one of the things I'd use in a lawsuit would be what I just told you. And again, I quote from the State Department: "There's no credible evidence of any terrorists coming across the border from Mexico." I'll remind our listeners here, Tom, the 9/11 terrorists didn't come from Mexico. They
Right.
came in on airplanes. They came in on tourist visas. They, in some cases, I believe, overstayed that visa, but they didn't come from the Mexican border. And so the factual underpinning for declaring a national emergency is not there. I'd frankly be attaching, as part of a lawsuit, some of the fundraising solicitations, because this does seem to be a fundraising ploy. It's the woe be me sort of victimization that he loves to roll out. I mean, again, this is distracting Donald. Let's not talk about the real issues. We've got folks who are diabetic, and you know how much the medicines, insulin, has gone up in the last 2 years. Why aren't we talking about that right now?
Yes.
A bipartisan fix to make sure prescription drugs.
David Hogg tweeted out this morning, you got 40,000 Americans died because of handguns last year. Isn't that a national crisis?
Yes. I mean, we can go down the list of anyone with a pre-existing condition. You look at the situation in so many communities across this country. Why don't we talk about the fact that we're building more prisons than schools in all too many states? That, to me, is a failure of moral leadership at a minimum. That's what we should be talking about. And again, this is a distraction. And I'll tell you, you talk about the TSA workers. There's so many other ramifications of this. I mean, food safety. There's a lot of food safety inspections that aren't going on. So do we need to have an outbreak of some foodborne illness again because there's not enough safety inspections before we do something about this manufactured crisis?
Right.
$5 billion is to close the federal government after both houses of Congress have sent you something because Rush Limbaugh and that crew got in your cage. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is I've seen a lot of government shutdowns, unfortunately. I was working for Senator Kennedy in 1996 when Gingrich shut the government down. Didn't work for him. Not going to work for this president. We're going to stand firm.
I hope so, and I hope that you can figure out a way to win the PR battle, because I think that that's what's really going on here. I really believe this is the kickoff of his 2020 campaign.
I agree.
Yeah, I wish you the very best. Thom Perez, chair of the DNC.
Take care.
Thank you, Tom. Great talking with you. Democrats.org is the website. You can tweet him at Thom Perez.